Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I'm going through a series of video presentations based on the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class for the fall 2019 semester. Our textbook is Pro ASP.NET MVC. And so far we haven't done too much. We've gone through Chapter 1, putting ASP.NET MVC in context, which was kind of a historical reference and let you know how they got to kind of where they are. And before I went into where I am right now, which is your first MVC application, before I went into that, I did an uninstall of Visual Studio 2017 Community Edition and then an install of Visual Studio 2019 Community Edition. So I'm in the middle of Chapter 2 right now. All right, and what I want you to see in here, we went over these in the last lecture. This is our namespace, so this is kind of the folder in which this exists. Party invites, controllers. This is what's in that folder. The home controller, which, again, inherits from controller. Right now, this is a get routine. You may or may not remember gets and posts back from the AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class, but there's quite a few differences between get and post. One of them is get more or less is designed to allow you to read or look at information. Once you change information to either insert, update, or delete information, then you're typically going into the post. But right now, this is expecting an action result, and technically what it's expecting is for us to create a file called index.cshtml. That's what we're going to get toward, or move toward. But right now we're going to just change this. So instead of returning an action result, this is just going to return a string, and it's going to return whatever we tell it to return, which is just going to be hello world. Oops. Hello world. Probably have heard this before, but for lack of better words, with hello world, it's kind of like the starting point for just about anything you do. All right, they won't have a very big effect here, but let's do a file, save all. All right, and then let's run the program again by clicking our green button here. And if it works, what we should see is what's shown here on the bottom of page 18. In other words, our screen should just say localhost followed by some random port number. Ours probably will not be 37782, and mine and yours will probably be different, and it'll say localhost. So let's see if that's the case. So it's still loading. You'll notice that my local host is 44308, and I get my hello world. All right. It says free up storage space. As I've already told you, I'm running out of storage space on this machine. All right. So it says your computer storage, visit storage settings. What I am going to try to do, and I have no idea if this is going to help me or not, but I'm going to go over to File Explorer. And I want to see if I have anything in my recycle bin. Not really at all. All right. But we'll empty it anyway. And again, the problem is on my desktop, I really don't have very much. All right. But in fact, if I highlighted the whole thing here, I think it was around 100 meg the last time I checked. Okay, so it's bigger. It's almost 400 meg, but it's not really very big. All right. Where I'm having the problem is in my C drive. Then when I bring that up and I look, now it's going to come up into the gigs. All right, and it'll be several gigs. And to be honest with you, if you've heard any of my lectures before, what you'll know is I profess myself to not be a hardware expert. So I'm not sure what in here I should be removing. I removed a bunch of stuff yesterday, and for lack of better words, it really screwed up what I was trying to do as far as being able to tape these lectures. But you'll notice how big this is getting. I'm just going to cancel out of there. And my guess is most of them, let's see, what do we have in program data? Well, that's 2 gig right there. And my guess is a lot of the stuff that's in here, see the TechSmith, that's what I removed yesterday. And pardon my French, you see I put it in today, it's a pig. All right. This takes up a lot of space. Well, 177 bytes, Jeff, what are you talking about? There's other stuff in there too. All right, so I'm just going to see if I can keep where I am right now. All right, and if I have enough to at least get through this particular chapter. All right, now the author says here, notice Visual Studio gave you that particular port, and again, as I already mentioned, yours could be something totally different. All right, moving on. Understanding routes. Right now, when we run the program, I wish I'd left it up there running. I did not. But I don't believe I did. No, I did not. But running the program, I'm going to run it again. The author mentions on the top of page 19 that there's 3 ways we can actually run this program right here. And we're going to get the same result regardless of how we run it. What this has done is it just says HTTPS, localhost, and a port. I can also come in here and put on the end /home and hit enter. Or I can put in here /home/index and hit enter. You notice that in all 3 cases, I get the same result. Why is that? All right. Well, it has to do with going back to app start and bringing up this route config file. I am by no means an expert on this, but I will let you know pretty much what I know on it here, and it all comes down to this right here, which says by default, which is unless told otherwise, when you go and you type something in, if you don't give the system the name of a controller, use home by default. If you don't give the system an action, use index by default. So in other words, and the ID is just an optional parameter. But if we don't give it anything, like when we just have the port number, it means under the home controller, run the index method. Well, what is that? That index method is this. All right, home controller index method. So it did exactly what we told it to do. All right? And that's what the author explains in here. I don't want to go into it in any more depth or breadth of coverage than that. All right. So the first thing or next thing we want to do, I'm on the middle of page 19. It says the output from the previous example wasn't HTML. Rather, it was just spitting a string at us that said hello world. So in order to produce an HTML response to our browser request, or in other words, remember that HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, whether it's HTTP or whether it's HTTPS, either way, it's a request-response mechanism. The browser makes the request, we're giving the response. We need a view now. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go back and change this to the way it used to be. In other words, I'm going to Control-Z my way out of here. All right, so we want this back to action result. In fact, we don't want that. We want here view result. And we're going to, yes, return a view. All right. And now, what do we have to do, or what do we want to do in order to be able to do that? Well, the author mentions here, again, I'm on page 19, the first thing I need to do is to modify my index method as shown. I've already done that. The changes are shown in bold. When I return a view result from an action method, I'm instructing MVC to render a view. I create the view result. We'll do it in just a minute. If you run the application at this point, we're going to get an error. But this is very, very, very important. All right? So let's go back to the application. Let's do a file, save all, and let's run it. And I'm hoping I get an error. In fact, the same error as the one that is shown on page 20 in the middle of the page. So why should I hope for an error? Many of the errors that you will come across while you're learning this are going to have very good messages. All right? What it's telling me is, hey, I told it that index was associated with a view. The system went and looked, and it's showing you this here, and it's saying you did not have a file called index.aspx or index.ascx under your home. You did not have an index.cshtml or an index.vbhtml under your home. You did not have an index.aspx, an index.ascx, an index.cshtml, or an index.html under your shared. But it's showing you it looked in two different folders for your information, both in the home folder and in the shared folder. And it looked for files, an ASPX file or an ASCX file or a .cshtml or a .vbhtml in both of those and didn't find any. Once it went through both of those folders and looked for any of those 8 files and didn't find it, then it gave us the error. What we're going to be most concerned with in here is going to be this file. Under Views Home, index.cshtml. Don't worry right now about what it stands for. Don't worry about a flipping thing. All right? So, again, I'm giving you my take on this, but the author says here, the error message is quite helpful. It explains not only that MVC could not find a view for the action method, but where it looked. All right? So the simplest way to create a view is to tell Visual Studio to create one for you. What does that mean? Well, let's check my time first. I'm at 13 minutes. Seems like a good place to stop and start part 3 in just a couple minutes.